if you're lactose intolerant, you can't watch this movie because it's got so much cheese.
Sorry, yeah, I gotta go. You guys can do this on your own.
Nope, end it there. You agree 100%. I'm right.
Welcome back, fellas. What's going on?
Hi, Kevin.
Hello. Not much. Just
Joe, you sound sad.
I'm sad. I'm doing a little funk today. Just
Why? You want to talk about it, Joe?
No, it's just a weird day. You know,
Okay.
didn't get a lot of sleep.
I mean, like our
Didn't really do much
our
work,
18
but got a lot of
listeners
stuff
wanna
done.
know.
So
Yeah. True.
That's good, Joe.
yeah.
I'm sorry that you're in a slump, but get your fucking ass out of the slump because we got a podcast to film.
That's what.
Put that smile on.
Yeah, yes. Drink that
Mr.
whiskey.
Four Roses is
Sláinte.
for.
What are you drinking, James? Wine?
Wine.
Nice. What
A
kind of
little
wine?
variety
cab.
today.
A little bit of cab.
A little cab? What
Mhm.
brand? Like, what's your go-to? Like,
I
what
don't
do you
know,
keep?
some fancy shit. And my dad was like, "I don't want this one," and I was like, "I want
Oh.
all."
That's awesome. I
He's
forgot
got
your
the
dad
good
has
wine.
like a wine cellar now.
He's not a wine seller. He bought like 3 racks
Yeah.
of wine from Amazon. And
Yeah.
he just like picks it up.
It's
to,
just
like,
a
fill
wall.
the Amazon wine
Yeah.
rack. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm just being boring and drinking a little harp.
Little harp.
Hashtag ad.
Not a
Little
bad
Irish harp.
Ad. Hashtag I'm Irish. Okay. So the movie we watched this week was 2021 American crime thriller The Guilty, directed and produced by Antoine. I'm gonna pull a James. Antoine Fuqua, from a screenplay by Nick Pizzolatto. Joe, I might need some help from Joe on that one.
Tony
It
P.
is Tony P. Nick Pizzolatto. And it's a remake of the 2018 Danish film of the same name, starring Jake Gyllenhaal, Christina Vidal, with voices of Ethan Hawke, Riley Coe, if that's how you pronounce it, Eli Gore, and Davine Joy Randolph, and Peter Skarsgård. Oh, and Bill Burr. I didn't even know that.
There was more than
The
one
Guilty-
actor in this movie.
Who is Bill Burr?
Yeah, all voices, which we'll talk about. But
Yeah.
The Guilty follows a demoted police officer assigned to a call dispatch desk, is conflicted when he receives an emergency phone call from a kidnapped woman. Kind of mysterious, kind of eerie.
Mhm.
James, you asked who was Bill Skarsgård or Bill
Burr.
Burr in this?
No
wow.
spoilers, Avi.
Paul Dano
I thi-
was in it too.
Was
Alright, we
he,
can talk about it.
let
We
me
can talk about it
guess.
later.
Was he
Doesn't-
Officer Nick?
That was the Wikipedia page that said it, but I don't see him.
I could see him being like one of the rando calls that he gets. But let's talk about that later. 'Cause I feel
Yeah,
like it's-
for sure.
yeah.
For sure. Talk about that later. But while I'm looking that up, why don't we kick it off with first reactions? Joe, what you think? No spoilers.
I enjoyed it. It was a good movie. Have you guys ever seen the Seinfeld episode Chinese Restaurant, where the
I don't
whole
know.
episode takes
Seinfeld.
place in the Chinese restaurant and they're just waiting for their reservation?
It's a bottle episode.
Yeah, I don't know what that means, but
Yeah.
yeah, never heard that term.
I've heard of that episode of Seinfeld because it's
So-
a notorious bottle episode.
Yes. It's basically, it takes place all in one scene. The characters kind of come in and out from this single location. Nothing really happens. It felt to me like a glorified Law and Order episode meets the Chinese restaurant episode of Seinfeld, where the story wasn't like super gripping because only one person really seemed to care in this whole movie. Like, obviously, yes, the point is he is a 911 operator. He gets his call and he is trying to help this woman who appears to be kidnapped, and he's trying to get all these people to help, and nobody really seems like that urgent or that much to care because there's this other wildfire breaking through LA and they're very busy as a police department, which is fair. But it just felt like, I don't know, nobody else cared, kind of, so why should we? But it was good. It was okay. I don't know what my overall take on this one just is just yet, but
You're waiting for us to help you.
I think we're gonna talk about this, and I'm gonna see if it's gonna sway me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know.
I'd be surprised if we didn't talk about this.
That's it, guys.
Yeah,
10
that's
minutes,
it.
we're done. That's it.
Yeah.
No, but that's just kind of my first reaction. Not that it was like boring, but it was. I don't know. It felt like a glorified
Okay.
Law and Order SVU episode to me.
Well, let me sell you, Joe. Ready for my
Sell
first
me.
reactions? All right. So this movie I thought was a fantastic show of acting, like absolutely phenomenal by Jake Gyllenhaal. You know, it was a very like after like 15. No, it was more like after like 30 or so minutes of this movie, you can like really tell that this movie is not for like the light of heart. You know, like it's a very like deals with very dark themes and situations, and it's all told from the room that he like this. Jake Gyllenhaal plays the 911 dispatch. It's told from his seat. You know what I mean? The entire like I'm not. We'll talk about it later, but like the entire set of the movie. Speaking of a bottle episode, is kind of like why we're pulling that in. Is it's all told from his seat on the phone lines at the 911 dispatch. And I thought the fact that that he and like the associated actors that were on the phone were able to kind of instill such an emotional story and such like I felt like the roller coaster of emotion as the story goes on and there are like realizations and more information becomes apparent. Like it hit, you know what I mean? And I wrote down a note. I was like, the first 10 minutes of this movie was more interesting than Sweet Girl. And it was like, because they established that like, he's like, in the first 10 minutes, they established like he's on leave for like some serious reason. He is like somewhat estranged from his family, and you can tell that he like has some sort of PTSD, you know, and that's like the first 10 minutes. And I'm like, I'm so much more interested in this than, you know,
I do want to
movies
say,
we've seen.
I did note that this movie had great exposition in the sense that they told a very well, like a very intricate story. There's different levels of plots without kind of being in your face of like, oh, you are in trouble. Oh, you are a bad person. You are a good person. Like they did a very good job of setting the storyline and like all the different plots without like shoving it down your throat and making it so obvious. So that was a huge selling point. The first 10 minutes, 15 minutes I thought were great of this movie.
Yeah, and it's like they do a very good job. Like it's a very like again, this it's not that this hasn't been done before, but I can't think of any large budget movie that I've seen recently that takes the stance of okay, we're going to tell the whole story from one point of view, you know, and like in this way and this well done. So I thought it was
that is very intentional. The one point of view, as you find out more throughout the movie, but. James, I for like one of the few times I'm on your page 100%. I think you said literally exactly what I was planning on saying today. Like for my first reactions was that this was a showcase of acting for Jake Gyllenhaal, which is no surprise. I mean, I think Jake Gyllenhaal is one of the best actors of our generation. So no surprises there. Also had to give a lot of props to the people who lended their voices to this movie because it is all over the phone. So I think the talent that they showed, almost like a voice actor would, I guess you could consider them voice acting in this movie, right? It's got to be super difficult to like show those emotions and act the way they did, like on a phone call. So that I thought that was really impressive. Story itself I really enjoyed. To James's point, like it's not for the faint of heart, and you kind of get caught up with it almost right away. So the storytelling I thought was really good. The writing I thought was really good. I thought it was a good movie all in all. I enjoyed it. I was really caught up in it. Hour and a half is a good time for a movie for me, especially this movie. Like they totally could have found themselves like this is one of those movies where they can find themselves like just getting caught up in the weeds and doing this and that, and they were like to the point, like let me tell this story and that's it and it's over. So I thought it was a good movie.
Yeah, I agree.
Did you guys ever see Phone Booth?
I think it was like
Phone Booth.
Yeah.
Is that a comedy?
No,
I feel like
it's like a similar vibe to this. It's about this guy who like answers a random phone booth call, and then the guy on the other
He can't
line is
leave.
like a murderer who's like, if you hang up this phone, I'm gonna kill everyone on the street. And then he's like, the whole movie is like him just talking and trying to figure out
On the phone.
Oh,
Oh,
isn't
that with Josh Peck?
No, maybe.
Are you
No.
sure?
I feel like it's old. I feel like it's older than Josh.
It's
Peck.
old. Yeah, it was like I feel like when he was on Drake and Josh.
Oh no, it was Colin Farrell. I'm thinking of a
Yes.
different movie.
Yeah.
No, I haven't seen that movie, but now that I'm looking at this like picture of it, I know the movie you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Similar vibes to that.
I
But
feel like I had to
what
study
this-
that movie for a class. Weirdly,
Interesting.
yeah, I don't remember what class it was, but like I remember very specifically, at least maybe
Math.
even talking about this in like a history class or something like in math. Yeah, I had to count how many beads of sweat the guy had in the phone booth.
Mm-hmm.
This really reminded me of. Did you guys see The Call with Halle Berry?
No, I heard a similar analysis to that, but I've never seen
Did
that
you?
movie. So
It I saw this. Me and my cousins got it out of like a red box. There was like we had nothing to do, and it was like the only movie that looked interesting. And it's like the same thing. She's a 911 operator. The girl gets like kidnapped, and now she's trying to solve the kidnapping. Like
That's
over the
literally
phone,
this
but then
movie.
she leaves. Like it's not this movie because she actually
Okay.
goes out there and tries to like Save
got
the
it,
girl.
case. Yeah.
But yeah,
Cool.
super cool. Like, or not super cool, but like just kind of a
So-
similar
Interesting.
vibe. But this was much better. This was significantly better than The Call.
Two things first. One, actually, I'm going to save my second one for after the break because it contains some
Because it's a
spoilers.
spoiler.
Yeah. Have you guys recently, or ever for that matter, had to make a 911 call?
I have a
Multiple
funny 911
times.
story.
Any like?
I'm trying to think of the times. The one time I called 911, more recently when we were living together, actually in Philly, I called 911 on my way home from work because
He was
I
trying
was
to get us
on
arrested,
95
James.
South. Yeah, I was on 95 South, and there was a couch in the middle of the highway, like a full on couch, just sitting in the highway. So I called 911 because I didn't know what number to call. Like in that situation, I would have called a local station, but since I'm
Yeah.
on the highway, I don't know who handles that. So I called them and just said, "Hey, look, there's a couch at this mile marker. Someone's gonna hit that couch." And at that point, like I'm on my parents' plan for my cell phone, and she gets like alerts if we call 911.
That's so
So she's
funny.
like, "Are you okay?" She called me. She's like, "Are you okay? Are you okay?"
Yeah.
I was like, "Yeah, there was just a couch." But yeah, that was the most recent one. I've called it before for stupid shit. But what about
Yeah.
you?
I recently called a similar story. I called 911 when I saw a car flipped over, like on the highway. There was already like 30 people out of their car, like trying to help the people get out of the car and flip the car. But I called to just like let the dispatch know exactly where the car was. But if
Mhm.
I have a funny 911 story that isn't my 911 story, it is my brother's 911
Oh
story.
boy.
So not
Oh,
to out.
Jack.
Little JC
Oh, Jack.
story.
Oh,
Oh,
Jack.
God.
I love Jack. He was a little kid. He's a little kid, right? So Jack might be like 6. I was like 10, and we were over at my uncle's house, right? So my dad and my uncle are like making us dinner, right? I'm hanging out with my cousin, like watching some TV show, and Jack's downstairs playing video games, right? So Jack's like a little kid. Like 6 is like a little kid, right? So he's
Right.
playing video games. Cops roll up in front of the house. My dad and my uncle are like, what's going on? Like, and then they like walk outside and they're like, hey, we got a call from a child. And then he hung up and we wanted to know if there was anything, if everything was okay. And they're like, yeah, like I think everybody's okay. And then they ran in because they thought it was me and like my cousin that were like calling the police. And we're like, no, we didn't call the police. And then we walk downstairs and there's a Mickey Mouse phone downstairs in my uncle's house. So Jack called the police because he was having trouble with a video game. Because I think it was like my mom or school or something had told him, if you ever run into a problem that you can't solve or if you ever need help, call 911. So he had called 911. Someone answered the phone, and then I think he got nervous and hung up the phone. But because it was like he was like, "Hello," you know what
It's
I mean?
like, I'm
as a
stuck
kid.
on level 13.
Wait a minute. So I had a different
He was
911
6.
story.
He was 6.
But-
yeah.
There was when we moved first into this house and we got our pool, all of my cousins would always come over our house and swim and whatnot. And in our basement, we also had a Mickey Mouse phone. And
Let's go.
one day, 2 cops just stroll up in the backyard while everyone's swimming in the pool, having fun. Like, we're young. And I have 2 little cousins who are probably like 4 to 6 age range. And they were always up to trouble. And we found out that they, from the Mickey phone, because they thought it was a fake phone, called 911. And the cops came to like check it out, what was going on. But my other 911 story that I was going to say was I literally had to call them last week. Actually, it may have been, it was like a couple days ago. I called them. No, so Amanda and I were watching the Britney vs. Spears documentary, and towards the end of it, like we're on the first floor in the city, so there's a lot of like noises, and we just hear this girl scream at the top of her lungs, like in trouble, in pain, something. So we're like, that's weird. And then we're like, but there was nothing to follow up. A couple minutes later, we hear her scream again, and she's screaming, "Don't touch me, get off me," all this stuff. And we're like, okay, something's wrong. Like, we need to like investigate, like figure out.
Is it in your building? Is it coming from your building?
No, it was clearly coming from down the street. So we're like, okay.
Yeah.
So I like, you're in the city. It's never safe to go running towards screams. So
Yeah,
I
no.
just like stick my head outside to see if I can hear or see anything. And this girl, like young white girl, just walking down the street by herself. She goes, "Did you hear that too?" And I was like, "Yeah. Like, is everything okay? Like, was that you?" And she was like, "No, I think it was down the street." And like, she's like, "I think everything's fine." She just like proceeds to continue walking in that direction.
How would you know?
So I'm
How
like,
would you?
Yeah, I was like, "Did you?" So obviously you heard that too. You had concern.
Bystander effect.
Yeah.
Did you
So
just murder someone?
my exact thought was the bystander effect. I was like, okay, all of these people are hearing it and assuming someone else is going to take action. So, and I fell victim. I was like, you know what? I'm just not going to do anything. Like, I'm sure it's fine. Like, maybe she's having an altercation with her roommate friend, whatever. We're about to go to bed, and we hear scream. We're just screaming nonstop at this point. I was like, okay, I'm calling 911. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, and we were like, literally, the first thing there, phone was like, "Are you in trouble?" I was like, "No," but like, there's someone screaming on our block. Like, she sounds like she's in danger. She is screaming like, "Give me my bag! Don't touch me!" This kind of stuff. And she's like, "Where's it coming from?" And I was like, "Oh, I have no idea." I was like, it sounds like it's coming from this corner, but like, it could be like we're in a city. Like, I don't know. Yeah. And she was just like, "Okay, we'll send a patrol car," and just like hung up. And I was like, "Oh, like that's it?" Like, it just like,
Well,
yeah.
Oh,
What did you think they were gonna do? Send like a SWAT team?
No. But like, I thought she was gonna ask for more information, personal information, something to be like, "We'll get in touch with you." Like, if you questions, whatever. Nothing.
But
you like, okay, we'll send a car. And like,
you also
done.
made it clear that you don't know that much. You know what I mean? Like,
Agreed.
like,
yeah.
I
No,
this on, like,
I wasn't like.
Yeah.
I also thought 911 had a policy of like they can't hang up on you by law. Like, you have to hang up first. And this is embarrassing on my part, but I'll tell the story. In college, I was drunk and we were going up to this like free music fest, and I like broke my ankle going up. Couldn't walk anymore. I was like, "Fuck! I gotta go to the hospital. My ankle's broken. Like, I need a cast." I called 911. I said, I was that jackass in this movie who calls for a scraped knee or something. Yeah. And they literally hung up.
You broke your leg though.
They hung up on me twice.
That is.
And then finally,
so
I was like,
funny.
"If you hang up on me again, I will sue." I was like, "I need an ambulance to get me to the hospital because I am on like a closed street right now. I can't get an Uber here," type of thing.
That is so funny.
Yeah. So those are my 911 stories, but it was just ironic that literally a couple days ago I had to call, and now we watched a movie exclusively about calling 911. Yeah.
Well, on that note, double down, right?
Well, we're not doubling down.
Just
We're not doubling down yet, but
still.
pass or play first.
I
Thoughts, Joe?
click play.
Oh well,
I'm gonna go first.
I didn't.
I
Let you go
speak with
first.
authority.
Fine, James. Go ahead. Since I'm letting you go.
I would like to click play on this movie. It is fantastic. I liked it a lot, and I think it was a fun ride all the way through, even though it was a little bit of a rough story. But
Joe, moment of truth.
I'm gonna press play too. It's a good movie. It's short. It does feel kind of like episodic TV movie, but I will press play, and I'm excited to talk about this in the second half.
Safe call, Joe. For the first time in a while, I feel like I'm also pressing play. Is this the first time we have 3 plays in
I
a
think
while?
so.
Since Tomorrow War.
Did we all click play on Tomorrow War?
Yes.
Huh. I don't
Well,
remember even clicking
The
play on
irony
that.
of this is that this is only going to be like 3 or 4 episodes released, whereas we
True.
recorded several more. So
Yeah,
several episodes
that's
after
true.
this are now spoiled.
Did Tomorrow War come out?
Tomorrow
That
was
was
yeah,
the first
that
one.
is true.
So yes.
Kev,
Okay,
do you listen
okay.
to the show?
Um,
Do you know what we're
Always.
doing here?
Yeah, so 3 plays and we'll go to commercial break. Make sure to either go watch it based on our recommendation, then come back and listen to us talk about the whole thing, or if you're not going to watch it and you just want to stick around, we'll see you in a few minutes. And we're back. Welcome back. Thank you, sponsors. That was such a long commercial break. Is it Joey's voice now on the commercial break?
I think so.
Yes, it's my voice on the commercial break.
Unreal.
Joey's enchanting voice. You
They
got
don't give me
bounced,
any
Kevin.
respect on this podcast just
Yeah.
because my voice is really loud. No,
No.
I'm cutting that.
I know.
If
Oh.
once you listen to wait, was that Ice Road you were doing that or Beckett? Was it Beckett?
Ice Road? No, I wasn't on Ice Road. and we
No,
didn't
yeah,
release it.
Beckett, you were doing that, dude. I just like straight up, you'll hear the cuts. You'll be like, "Why did that just cut real quick?" And I was like, not even dealing with adding those fucking bullshit sound effects. I highlighted, I put the little marker, and it was like Joey bullshit, and then just cut it the fuck out. Anyway, we're back. That conversation I'll either leave in or people will be really confused. Either way.
Kevin does
Into-
not care about continuity.
I do not care. I could care less about your listening pleasures on this show. Okay, that sounded really weird.
Yeah, it also sounded very negative to the listeners because they're gracing us with their presence
Yeah,
That's true.
and
That's true.
viewership.
we'd rather them here than you, Kev. So
I know that.
Yeah, kind of
Um,
like that.
but look, I take a third of this podcast with me if I go, so you guys are like fucked anyway.
That's true.
you get the X.
I'll take 1/3 of that money we got saved up in the in the account.
Oh,
there.
yeah?
Don't tell everybody. We don't
Yeah,
want them to track us down and
You're right.
Yeah.
You're
kill us
right.
for a
All-
We don't want them to know.
They're gonna
all
come
that
after
money.
all of our dollars.
our each individual dollar.
Dollars.
Yes. All right. So spoiler section. How did we really feel? I feel like this is one of those where there's not much really to it. Nothing crazy that's like, oh, we really got to get into this. But what do you guys think? James looks like he's got something to say.
James
I
looks
don't
like he has
necessarily
gas.
agree. Maybe. But no, I don't. I actually think that there's pretty heavy spoilers in this. Like there's a twist at the end of this movie that happens that I think is a very it's what sold me on this is a very good movie. And even it's definitely has adult themes 100% all the way throughout. Like there's kidnapping, there's like assault, there's a lot that goes on, and it's like it's very real, very graphic situations. Again, you're experiencing them all through audio because you're hearing them happen over a call, but it's something this is some of the darkest themes that I've seen in modern cinema, I think.
You haven't been
so-
watching A24 movies, have you?
I guess not. No. But like what happens with like Oliver and like some of the other characters, like it's very like it goes to a very dark place. So that's definitely the disclaimer, but I do think this movie is fantastic, and like the ride that it takes you on is very like visceral. And I know that there were plenty of times in this movie where I was sitting there like I don't know if I can watch this.
See,
But that's
that's
because
where
I'm a
I
baby.
struggle with this because I never felt that way. I was like, oh, I know this is supposed to be intense, but I'm not like, oh, there was the one moment where I was like, oh wow, that is sad and scary. Like when we find out about Oliver, who we
The
won't.
baby.
Kid.
Yeah, I was gonna say we don't have to say who Oliver is, but Oliver. But I wasn't gripped the whole time. And I
was
think
super gripped.
one of the and I don't want to sound like a pretentious asshole who's like, oh, I predicted that. But
You're going to.
no, it's not. It's not because I'm like, oh, I'm whatever. recently,
I'm a film major.
I'm a film major. I don't know if you guys know this.
What I will say, Joey, not to cut you off again, but like I do want to shout out you and appreciate you because you don't pull like the fact that you actually have a degree in film over us ever in this podcast.
Yes, you're welcome.
That's so true.
No, and I was gonna say it has nothing to do with that. Recently, I watched a movie on Amazon Prime. It's a Prime original, very good movie. We don't discuss it on this podcast, but it's called Life Itself. Very good, very dark, very depressing movie. And one of the big concepts of this movie is the unreliable narrator, meaning that like the person who you are experiencing the story from is not telling the truth, or they're telling their truth, which is not the reality. I mean, they could be crazy, they could be having a psychotic break, they could be dead. Like, there's so many different reasons why the narrator could be unreliable, and that was a huge theme in this movie as well. That I think that's just so fresh in my mind, which like has made me question like, what is real? Can we trust what we're hearing? Can we trust the truth behind this one side of the story that we're getting? And I think that's why I wasn't so blown away by the twist of, oh, she wasn't a captive, she wasn't abducted, but it was still a good twist.
There's more to the story.
I'll leave out my frustrations with you watching an original movie, not for the podcast. And
I'll say this. I thought it was a chick flick when we watched it. Me and Amanda watched it together, and that's why I was okay with watching it, and I was like, oh, this is a good movie. And then I decided not to.
That's okay, Joe. But to your point, I feel like I know where you're coming from. I just don't feel like the twist needed to like blow you away. Like, I wouldn't say the twist blew me away that I was like, whoa, like I didn't even see that coming at all. But like it was still like a good twist that like fit the story and made sense in that narrative where I was like, okay, yeah, that's good. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like an Inception, like mind fuck, like big twist, M. Night Shyamalan, like, whoa. But it does. I don't think it always has to be.
No,
and it challenges the reality. It challenges the reality that you understand, right? Like, it's like the movie establishes rules very early on that it's like, okay, what this person says and what this person
you call 911, you're telling the truth, type of thing.
Exactly, 100%. And like what you're saying is fact, and all of the decisions made for 70% of the movie are based on that fact, and then you realize that what you're like Jake Gyllenhaal realizes that like, oh, things may not be what they seem, you know? And like I thought that was very like I don't know if I was like, whoa, but I was like, no.
Yeah, you were like, fuck.
Yeah,
you were like, oh shit. And like we are getting kind of deep into later spoilers, but yeah, Joe, I don't know. For the first time, it's kind of sad. I just like fully disagree with you. The fact that you weren't
I was
totally gripped by the movie the whole time. Like, me and Jewel were glued to this movie the whole time, just like James was.
There's the other reason I say it's kind of like a Law and Order episode is because there's an exact episode where a little girl calls 911, ends up getting patched through to Olivia Benson, the head SVU detective. And the whole episode is her talking to her through this 911 operator. And she's saying, can you tell us where you are? Can you tell us this? Yeah. And like the little girl doesn't know where she's at. She doesn't know any details. She doesn't know how she got like this phone, like all this stuff. And in the middle of it, they start to think that this little girl's lying to them and playing them for like fools. So that's where I thought this movie was going. I thought it was going to be like a prank or something ridiculous. Because I was like, why would this girl have a phone if she's being held abducted? Why would this guy let her be on the cell phone if he's holding her captive? And I was just like, okay, like there could be reason to it. Like, yeah, she's talking to her daughter, she's calming him. Then I found out they're formerly married, they're divorced or separated. So I was like, okay, it does kind of make sense that he would let her use the phone, but also still abduct her. Like it. The exposition of this movie was great in that it told a very good story, did it well. There was no real plot holes, and I liked it. I don't know. I just wasn't totally gripped throughout.
I was gorilla gripped.
Yeah, me too. Me and Julia were like, and like it did hit home for me. Like, not like hit home. Like, I didn't have anything similar in the situation. I used the wrong terminology there. I've never been kidnapped by my ex-lover and had to call 911. But like, I don't know, me and Jewel were just totally enthralled in this movie, and we were like, oh shit, like, this is kind of heavy. Some of those calls were like, and some of those realizations, you're like, oh fuck, like, you're just kind of like, oh my goodness. So we were gripped like the whole time.
Yeah,
So
it's also
I think-
evil you don't wish on anybody, you know? Like,
Oh
that's
my god, yeah.
Yeah.
Everything that happens in that movie, you're like, Jesus Christ.
I think part of it also was that there was two plots going on at the same time, where there's him dealing with this 911 call, and then him also dealing with his personal life. And
Yeah,
to me, it felt
I
like
thought that was well done.
I thought there was going to be much more like psychotic break intertwined in it. That like maybe this 911 call wasn't real, and that he was talking to his ex-wife or something, or something. His
I had that
child
thought.
had like I thought that's where it was going.
Yeah.
So I'm happy that it wasn't. I genuinely was
I'm
surprised
glad
by
that
the
it wasn't,
twist.
too.
I like was gripped and was like, oh, that's cool. That's exciting. Like this is different. It was dark, but
Yeah.
it felt like there was always something else going on, and not like, oh, just trust what you're seeing at face value. Call it a day.
Yeah, I did like the fact that they did bring that in, like his personal life, because it shows, because they do a very good job of establishing very early on like what Jake Gyllenhaal's character's motivations are, and like what his like character flaws are. You know what I mean? Like he kind of has the 1,000-yard stare. You see like very early on that he has like a disjointed relationship, one with his previous spouse and two with his daughter, even though he wants to have a relationship with his daughter. Which
just has no bedside manner as a phone operator.
Oh God,
why
no.
are you working as a phone operator? I was like, oh, you're on.
We're about to talk about that, but James,
but
finish your point.
The fact, I actually think that point, Joey, in this movie isn't necessarily used as a separate storyline. I think it's used as one, character development for Jake Gyllenhaal, and then two, like a pressure point, right? Because there's a point where he's talking to Emily, right, the main female like protagonist-ish, you know what I mean, to Jake Gyllenhaal in the beginning of the movie, and he gets a call from her, and he knows that it's super important, but then he also gets a call from his wife, you know, or his like ex-wife, and he's like, you see him like sweating, he's like fuck, and I thought he was going to like hang up on Emily and answer the call from his wife, but he did the right thing and like was still coaching her through, like talking to him, was going through like the yes or no questions, because at that point in the movie, he was under the impression that she was kidnapped, and she was like basically faking talking to her daughter while she was talking to the 911 operator. And he's like, okay, just respond yes or no. And they were kind of, even though he has this outside pressure coming in that like really focuses most of his brain power, like he's able to coach her through, you know, getting enough information to get a squad car after the van that she's locked in.
Yeah, I think it is like, I kind of, that's what I liked about the movie, was those two kind of plots that, like, I thought that was really well done. How almost the main plot of the movie, what you would think is the main plot, which is the kidnapping, is really just a device to like Jake Gyllenhaal's actual thing going on, that you're trying to figure out like what is going on with this guy's life that is so persistent during such a like crazy time, or such a crazy crime that he's trying to figure out, like what could he have possibly done that is this serious that they're talking about. So I thought it was really well done how they kind of parallel things, and how they kind of use the main plot to drive his character to where it ends up, which we'll talk about later.
I went on the record. I do agree with you guys. I do like that it
we
was
know.
parallel story.
We know. Yeah.
I was like, I don't think I'm thinking that was a bad decision.
No,
I like that
no.
decision.
You made it very
totally
clear.
Subplots and more. Yeah.
We just hate you, Joey.
Yeah, we just like to give you a hard time. You know, as good friends do.
Yeah.
But before we kind of get, because now we're kind of getting towards the spoilers, kind of what the meat and potatoes were at the end of the movie. Let's just talk about some gripes. What the nits and grits? I just watched that clip earlier today. The nitty gritty. Let's talk about some gripes, because not too often do we have like a good movie, but I feel like I had some things written down that were like silly. Like every time we watch like a really good movie, I never have like any notes. So
Yeah.
I made sure I wrote something down. Like Sound of Metal, I had like 2 things written down. So let's talk about some gripes. Did you guys have anything that stood out to you that you were like, what the fuck? Because I know I had a few.
I had a couple, but most of it was all about, like, again, Joey said it earlier, like his bedside manner, you know? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like he was unnecessarily, and I get that he's like high strung and like obviously he's having a hard time because his court date is the following day, but like he's an asshole for almost no reason sometimes, you know? Like, and I guess maybe I missed it, but I just feel like the coworker Manny, like he would consistently give him a hard time. Like he's like, "Can you fuck off?" And like you're like,
loved
why?
that dynamic. He literally at one point he's like, "What's going on with you? You seem in trouble." And he goes, "Mind your own fucking business." It's just so fucking funny. Like he's here empathizing with you, trying to reach out and help you, and you're just like,
he's just like a shitter.
yeah. I do have one big gripe though.
Go ahead.
This movie is very short. It's an hour and a half, and it takes place over like 8 hours of the night. It's like very like long time span.
Well, yes.
And it makes like, I was like, why are they saying like, oh, you're still at work? Like you just talked to him 5 minutes ago. What do you mean? I'm like,
yes.
oh, we're
yes.
4 hours later, but we haven't seen anything real time change. Does that make sense?
I agree 100%. I thought the same thing, that the time was a little confusing. I feel like they probably could have done a better job. It's hard when it's like in just one like building, one room
I
the
think we
whole
just
time.
needed
Like that's so
one-
hard, but they had the big TVs, so they could have shown it better. Like if they
like
kept
the time.
really focusing on the TV, like at certain points in the movie, just like show what's going on with the fires and show the time,
If it went from
and
like
all that
daylight
kind of stuff.
to dark or
Yeah,
something. We just needed
100%.
like
Yes.
one good montage of
Something.
him just like waiting around for a phone call to come through.
Yes,
And there was never that
100%.
moment.
Like 2 minutes, like one minute,
Yeah.
maybe 1.5 minutes, and that's it. That's all you need.
Mhm.
100%.
But I feel like that's kind of what keeps you in the seat, though, right? Like I think that they definitely
True.
could, like to your point, right? I think they could have done something where like the lower, like at certain points in the movie, it's like 8:03, you know what I mean? And then later it's like 3 a.m. or something like that, you know?
Yeah, they could have just shown time cards, right?
Yeah,
Other
but what
movies have done that fine.
100%. And this movie, like honestly, like comparatively, like not to contrary your point again, Joey, but this movie happens over 8 hours. Most movies we watch happen over weeks, days, months. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Yes,
So-
but they don't take place in the same room where there's clear
Yeah.
time distinctions of, okay, this person is on a plane now, they're in a car. Like there's ways to
Yeah,
tell time
exactly.
passing in film.
Where it doesn't
that-
happen here. Yeah.
There's nothing that happens here. There's no sign that an extensive amount of time passed, because you also got to keep in mind that like they're just in a car driving. So how long are they
Yeah.
driving?
Yeah, where do they go?
How long did it
Yeah.
really
Right.
take him to get to this hospital? Like did it take?
That's so true. Did
That's
it
true.
take him 8
So,
hours?
It probably
Wow, I
did
didn't
be-
even think about
Well,
that.
it probably did because
'Cause
the
of the fires.
wildfires,
Yeah.
and they said like they emphasized a lot that the smoke and dust, you couldn't see anything. They couldn't even
Yeah,
tell the color
right.
of the van when it was right in
Yeah.
front of them after they pulled it over.
It's
So,
a
like,
layer of difficulty for everyone involved.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it was just
Um,
like, how like long is this day?
Yeah.
There's no real
Yeah.
time to know how
But
long it was.
I do like the way because I feel like they really built up the intensity of the movie, because like it looked like Jake Gyllenhaal was always on the phone. You know what I mean? It was like he's calling Emily. Emily hangs up. He's talking to Emily's daughter, and like he's talking to Highway Dispatch. He's talking to
Yep.
his old partner. He's talking to like a sergeant that he knows and is
Mhm.
friends with. You know what I mean? He's basically pulling every string that he possibly can to get back up on this case. You know,
Yeah.
and like I think that like that is further like you're basically like in the seat, and it like push until you get the reveal that like, oh, like she's either about to die or like more is being revealed, or like I feel like it's like they very, very well set up to like the twist that happens, and you're like
So-
you did all that work, you did all these things, you made all these sacrifices, you yelled at all, like you ruined a lot of relationships,
Yeah.
and it all went down the drain, kind of,
Yeah, you guys had
also-
some really good, like, serious gripes, though. I was really, like, asking about, like, dumb shit. Like, like, because like my dumb shit, like those are really good points. I'm glad that makes me look like a good host. But I was really more talking about like the
His
idea
hair.
that no, but like stupid shit like him not using, does the LA's dispatch not use NATO phonetic alphabet? Like he wasn't using like Charlie Delta
yeah.
Echo.
Alpha,
He wasn't.
Beta.
I was like,
yeah.
I don't know, like Sam as
Alpha Bravo.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Mhm.
And then I also said, wouldn't a detective be handling a kidnapping at this point? Like if it was a detective, like wouldn't have that gotten handed over to like the troopers and like the detective there?
Well, and that's what was upsetting to me was that like they kept saying, "Oh, there's no police force. There's no." Okay, fine. Don't give us the police. Like, give us a detective who's going to take on this case. Like, nobody seemed to really care because they're wildfire. I'm like, okay, yes, it's a big deal, but you got to take.
I get it's a
case
movie,
serious.
and like you have to suspend your disbelief when you're watching movies, right? Like this is just a story. It's not real life. They're not trying to be real life, but like little stuff like that to me, I'm like, wouldn't they just like?
Well,
Like,
to me, it
wouldn't
almost
an
does
actual
feel
cop
real.
be handling this?
No, and that's what I asked earlier if like you guys had experience calling 911 operators because I do have experience where 911 operators just like don't give a shit where like they're like, okay, this isn't a real issue, which is fair in my case.
So
it was not a real issue.
Poor guy who got
but-
who got hit on his bike and he was
Yeah.
like, "Fuck you!" and hung
Poor
up the
Joey.
phone. It was like the same thing. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's literally
was
Joe's
literally
experience.
that's
is
what
the
made me
dude
think
got
of that
hit
story.
on his bike.
Yeah.
And he was like, "Fuck."
He's like,
That's crazy.
how am I
I
supposed
had
to-
a-
Oh,
I-
that was
I
the
took-
dude in the club. That's who Bill Burr was. The one who was like,
Oh.
that he was like, "Fuck you" to the to Jake Gyllenhaal, and he was like, "Fuck me, fuck you," and like they went
Yeah.
back and forth. That was Bill Burr. Yeah.
Gotcha.
Nice. What's it called?
But-
I actually, I had that once. I brought somebody to an emergency room. We tried to call 911 multiple times. I don't want to get into specifics because it's really gross. But we
I know
tried
the
to bring
story.
him like, yeah.
I
we
got
tried
a
to
light
bring him
bulb
to the
stuck in my
emergency
ass.
room.
It's a pumpkin, Kevin. It's a
Kevin, do you want to
pumpkin.
talk about that? So no, we got to the emergency room, right? So like we like call. At one point, like we just have to drive him over. We drive him to the emergency room with campus police, and like they're like 911's not working, and then the hospital goes, yeah, that's been down for like 3 hours, and the campus police is like 911's been down for 3 hours. People could be dying.
Yeah. Is that the toe story, James?
Yeah, that's the toe story.
Yeah, I remember you telling me all that
Yeah.
on our
Yeah.
trip down to DC.
It was a nutty time.
Yeah.
It is not a fantastic story though.
Yeah, no, definitely don't tell it. It's gross.
Yeah.
You guys made a trip down to DC without me.
Yeah.
It
This is
was-
this is
We
before we,
just
lived
carpooled
together.
together. It was a couple years ago.
Yeah.
I was visiting a friend.
when
He
Alex
was
went to
visiting
DC.
Alex. Yeah.
Mhm.
We didn't
Kevin
like
gets
you, and we
jealous.
still don't like you.
Kevin, this
I
was
don't
half a
believe
decade
you.
ago.
I don't believe you.
Honestly, it was about 5 years ago.
Yeah, it was. You were in college still, Kevin.
Yeah.
So what?
So what? I still want to go to DC.
I can't go to DC when I'm in college. What the fuck is that rule?
Again, we weren't going to like together.
No,
We were
no, I
both
get it. I got it.
going. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
right. Yeah, I
No.
got it. Yeah.
Yeah.
We had a
just
party
don't like you.
without you.
Oh,
We
yeah,
invited
yeah,
the
yeah,
rest
I
of the
get it, I
group,
get it.
and we all hung out.
Yeah.
And
We
Had a
invited
wild
Julia
time.
before we knew
Yeah.
her.
Yeah, I get it. I didn't want you. I didn't even want to go.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back to it. Let me be a good host. Bring us back. Let's talk about the twist towards the end of the movie. Pretty much the last 30 minutes, right?
Big
30,
guess.
25
15.
minutes.
Big
It's very
yikes.
end.
15.
It's very close. Yeah.
Yeah, pretty jarring realization that Jake Gyllenhaal's character has, which is that the woman he's been talking to on the phone is not being
Mentally
kidnapped
well.
by her ex. She is just mentally ill, and he is trying to get her to an institution, to a hospital, to get her help because she did physical harm to their child.
Yeah. Attempted to
so-
murder their child.
Yes, essentially, yes. You find out it was attempted at the end, but all the while, actually, if you catch the line, you know the baby might not be dead. If you caught it,
Yeah.
it's real quick, but the cop says he's still breathing
Yeah, he's in
right
the
before he
ICU.
hangs up the phone. So, leads you to believe the baby might be dead. But yeah, so that's the big twist that we've been talking about the whole time. I, for one, thought it was a really good twist. I think we all agreed it was a good twist. It was really like sad. Like you feel really bad the whole time. Julia was very upset during it. I even started to tear up. This might be the first Flixfellas movie that brought a tear to my eye. Yeah, unless you guys can bring up something else. But no, it was a heavy ending.
Do you remember American Pickle? When
Shut up.
Yeah. Herschel.
Shut up.
Shut your mouth.
That is so good.
I swear, like, no, 100%. It's like, that's like it's such a complicated and dark situation. And that's kind of like the point at which I was like, listen, this is not a movie for the faint of heart, right? Like, it takes you to like the lowest low you can possibly be, because like she's not mentally well. She thinks she's helping the kid, but it's obviously not, and and the entire time that Jake Gyllenhaal is like working with her and like trying to help her, he thinks that she's completely, like 100% cognizant of her situation and is just like freaking out because she's been kidnapped. And he even coaches her into like attacking her husband or her ex-husband, right?
Right.
I remember the line specifically. She says, "Hit him, he deserves it." You know what I mean? And it's like, I was like, that is such a powerful line, and I knew that there was something else going on. Like at that point.
Yep. And it's so powerful for like his character development as well. Obviously, towards the end is like that eats away at his guilt. If we're going to the title of the movie, there's the title of the movie where, he's putting someone else in a dangerous situation. So yeah, that was a huge line. I think he deserves it. Do it. He deserves it. He's almost talking to himself and trying to rationalize what he did. Or once he realizes that she is ill, he is now rationalizing that or playing that to himself, right? Like, he deserved it. He deserved it. He even says it on the phone when he's talking to her and he's telling her what he did. And he said, he's all frantic, and he's like, he deserved it. And then he's like, did he deserve it? He's like, what did he do? So he's like, all this plays into his big climax or his character's arc at the end, which I thought was really well done. That whole last 15, 20 minutes of the movie, I thought was like tier A1.
Yeah, so that was a fantastic observation, Kev. Like,
Thank you.
I didn't think about that. Like that like his, because I do think that that's the turning point where, not to cut you off, Joey, I'm sorry, but that is the turning point where he challenges he challenges his state of being and his state of mind, and he tells her to make the same mistake that he made, you know, and he realizes that he was wrong. You know what I mean? Like, that is, you are 100% on the money, Kev. I didn't think about it that way.
Thanks.
Yeah.
So I have a question and a gripe for you guys.
Okay. Question first.
Let's do the question first, because I think it's more of a straight answer. She kept saying there were snakes in his stomach. He was crying because of the snakes. Did that make sense to you guys, or do you know what that meant? Like, I don't know if there was some...
No, I don't. Yeah, so I think my first reaction was, because that's when he finds out that she is sick. So, excuse me. So when I heard that line, no, I'm not gonna get too graphic, but when I heard that line, when she was like, "There's snakes," I had to get the snakes out, and I was like, "Oh fuck, she did it." And I didn't know if it was like drugs or if she was sick. And then I think once we found out she was like just sick, I was like, "Oh, it had like she's just like making something up. The baby was probably crying." This and that, and she just like made this kind of story up in her head. So I don't think
there's a way to understand it. Like, I don't think there's a way to understand it like outsider looking in. You know, I think it's a mental illness.
That's what I thought too. But she says to him, she was like, because she asked him at one point, she was like, "Was it snakes too with your child or something like that? Or do you know what I mean?" And he right away says. Not right away, but he like self-reflects for a second. He goes, "Yes, I know what you mean." So I was like,
I don't think.
is this
I
supposed to
think he
mean
just
something?
says that to calm. No, I think he says that just to calm her down. Like I
So
don't
all
think
of a
it
sudden
has
he
anything.
has good bedside manner.
Yeah, essentially, what he realizes exactly what Kevin was saying. Like he realizes his mistake, right? And he's like, my job is to like one, get her not to hurt herself, right? Get her not to hurt anyone else. And the way that I can do that is like appealing to her understanding.
Yeah.
You know?
Okay.
And, like,
no, I agree with that. And
yeah.
I agree with
Because
that.
her
That does make sense.
perception is
I just didn't know if I
warped.
missed something
Yeah.
because I was maybe I
No,
wasn't.
no. I it's just a warped perception, Joe. Like at least that's my again. This is 100%. Like a lot of this is kind of given to you very quickly. My interpretation is like people like, and again, I don't have a ton. I'm not a professional in this field. I don't deal with a lot of super mentally like ill people regularly, but my understanding of what they were kind of trying to display was like, and her perception does not make sense, right? Like she is unwell, you know, and for
snakes
us,
in your child's stomach doesn't make sense.
Exactly.
Right, it just doesn't make sense. Yeah.
It's a non, you know what I mean, it's not a logical statement in the mind, you know.
So my next gripe, which they do kind of try to remedy this in the sense that he was formerly in prison himself and he doesn't trust the cops and he's taught his children not to trust the cops. But I almost think it would have been like at some point you should just say like, why didn't he just say, oh, my wife is mentally ill, she harmed our child? Like you're taking her to a hospital where you're going to have to say what she did for her to be there. Like you're going to tell somebody.
Yeah.
Why not just tell the cop? I think it's and be like, don't try to take me out. Don't try to crash my car or have the cops pull me over. Like, I need to get her to this hospital because she's sick. I get it. It's like a very like,
I think it's strictly because, and you can make a case for it's a weak argument, but I think they're strictly chalking that up to he has no faith in the judicial system, and I think that's also a theme in the movie, is like the lack of faith in the judicial system. So he's not going to call the cops. He doesn't want their help because he doesn't want to go to jail. He doesn't want her to go to jail. He doesn't trust the cops to take care of them because they never have. And his monologue is kind of, I think, what they use to show that when the husband, Henry, is going off saying, like XYZ, like this and that is why, you know, he kind of goes into it. No one helps. Like, you weren't there. Why weren't you there for this? Like, no one helps with that. So I think that's kind of what they chalk it up to. Was it kind of shoehorned in there? Maybe. Like, I could see that argument, but that's kind of what I think their explanation was for that.
Yeah, I also think they developed a reluctance because Jake Gyllenhaal was aggressive with him on the phone. Like, if you remember the first time that he talked to him, it was like, hey, like, we need, like, your children are home alone. Yeah, your children are home alone.
Yep.
Shouldn't you go get them? And he was like all nervous. He's like, I can't do that. And then he immediately jumps to, listen, Henry, I know what you're doing.
Yeah,
you're a criminal. You're going to go to jail.
Killed your son.
He's the one that imposes like the threat on him first.
And to me, though, it's like, no, you don't. He says you don't understand. I do remember that because I'm like, what's there not to understand of the situation? But he should have just been like, my wife is sick. I need to go get her help. Or,
I mean,
in my mind, I'm like, I also like his. In my mind, it also makes sense because as an abductor, I feel like it could be very like cliche to be like, oh, you don't trust her, she's delusional type of thing, like gaslight her almost to the cops, which obviously no one's going to take your word over the supposed victim in this case.
Gaslighting is hot right now. We talked about that on another podcast, and I just watched Clickbait. I was like, more gaslighting.
I need to finish Clickbait, so no spoilers.
Okay, sorry. That gaslighting is a very early theme in that show, though. So.
I'm like halfway through that. But
anyway, I thought those last 10 minutes, everything kind of plays into it well. God, Jake Gyllenhaal at the end there when he's trying to talk her off the ledge, how fucking heartbreaking was that? When he finally has his break and he's talking about how like I killed, like when he says that, like you can feel the weight of him saying like I killed a man, like I killed a boy, and like you feel that, like you felt hit the weight that he had on himself during that whole movie
Yeah.
like right in that instance, and him going through that monologue, like I can't kill someone else.
Yeah.
Like I thought that was so powerful. I thought it was well written. Obviously, I thought it was well acted. Like he crushed it. But Joe, what did you think?
I just want to chime in one thing on this because I felt the same thing. I was like, oh, okay, he killed somebody. He abused his police power, took advantage of a situation, type of thing.
Yeah.
I thought he was gonna also kind of like empathize or justify it in some sense. That's probably a better word, to be like, I was given wrong information. But he was just like,
He tried.
I wanted to do it. He was like, I don't know what came over me. Like, I was like, I didn't feel bad for him. I was like, oh, you wanted to kill somebody. Like, that was your goal. And
No, I didn't feel bad for him either, but he tried to rationalize it in that time that he was breaking down. He tries to, because you can hear it if like when he's like he was a bad guy. He says something like he was a bad guy, like he did something wrong, and then he's like, what did he do? He was like, what did he do? He's like, and like he's trying to figure out that
nothing.
rationalization in his head, and he can't. And so he comes to this he had nothing, like he couldn't like rationalize it, and like he is a bad guy, like he did something bad. And it's again, Joe, you're that theme of like a false narrator. We think that, you know, something happened to him that like wasn't
there was a
like
justification
too serious, and that like it was kind of lost in translation, and he is the good guy and he's just stuck on this duty. But then there's that other instance of that false narrator. I love that new term you taught us. That Jake Gyllenhaal.
Go watch that movie. It's great.
Okay, I will. That Jake Gyllenhaal is actually a criminal, and like he did something wrong, and he realizes that. And I think people do realize that, but yeah, I thought it was really well done. I think that's when I went from like this is a good movie to like, oh, this was a great movie that people should watch. Like that was kind of where my switch was. Come for the acting, stay for the rest. So
yeah, I think that like especially too at the end, like the little cap off where like he basically has like his breakdown session where he's talking to his partner. He's like, listen, I did it. You know what I mean? I'm gonna come out. I'm gonna, you know what I mean? I need to take ownership. And then like you see the movie is like named guilty. You know what I mean? And then you hear over the radio is like, oh, you know, what's it called? Like police, like whatever this is, like I can't remember his name.
Pleads
Jake
guilty.
Gyllenhaal. Yeah, like comes up and pronounces guilty. He's the fourth person in recorded, like fourth officer in recorded history to be like convicted for like this type of charge, you know, or something like that. And I was just like, what, like I thought it was a very good way to cap off the movie, and like because it rolled back into like
it was a good ending.
Yeah, his mistakes like in this scenario made like influenced his personal journey and affected the way his evolution as a person. And he's like, because he's like his partner's like, listen, you're not going to see your daughter for years, and he just like it hurts him, but he knows that like he killed somebody. You know what I mean? Somebody's not going to see the rest of their family for their entire lives because he killed somebody. So he needs to go to jail. You know?
Yeah.
I thought it was a really good ending. Anything else? Any last minute thoughts, decisions, story before we double down and we play our game?
Nuts.
No. Are we all
actually,
satisfied?
I
oh, okay.
The 1 hour and a half, 1:20 runtime was like the perfect amount of time for this movie.
Mwah. I love that.
It almost
I
kind
love
of
an
feels
hour and
like
half.
a play when it's like in a single location like that, or a single like character.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Type of thing.
I agree.
All right. Do we want to double down first or do the Metascore game?
Let's do Metascore first. Yeah.
Okay. Since I started with Joe earlier, we'll start with James. What you think, James?
Why don't you start with Joe and then I'll interrupt Joe because I feel like that's been a theme for this podcast. I'm sorry,
of
Joe.
Our whole podcast. I was laughing. Did you hear me laugh at that one point? Because James interrupted Joe, and then they both stopped to let the other one go, and then they both started again.
That is true.
It's the
I was like,
problem of
Jesus
recording
Christ.
virtually. You know, we need to be
That
more in
is
person.
true.
Maybe in the
Yeah.
future we'll
We
have
do.
a recording episode in person together.
Maybe we'll have a couple. All right, James, what did you think? Guess
Metascore for this. I
I
it's gonna
think
be
it was probably.
I've been crossed. I will remember this. I think my Metascore. I actually think, Joey, you get an advantage if I go first. So I think you might not want to cut me off. So I think the Metascore is 71.
Okay. Joe?
I think it's going to be, shockingly, who I was more hesitant on this movie and James was so strong. I think it's going to be higher. I think it's going to be close to like an 84. I think it's going to be like, I do respect this movie for its cinematography, the acting, the writing. Like, it's very well done. It seemed like a cheap budget, which that's where my hesitation is to give it too high of a score, and like maybe it's probably in the 70s, but it's got a good cast, and I do think that there's potential for it to be in the 80s.
63.
Whoa.
Woof. Bad.
Yeah.
So okay, I was right. This movie sucks.
I
keep scrolling.
No, 63 on Metascore is not a bad score. It's borderline kind of that medium space, but no, it's not a bad score.
It's a movie that will be forgotten.
We also possibly, yeah, probably.
I say that is only true because it's a streaming movie. If this was like in theaters, it'd be a movie that like hits a lot of people. You know, like this.
I feel
this
like
would
it
be
would
up
have been
for
worse
awards.
in theaters.
This would be up for awards. I swear.
No,
I don't think so.
I don't think it had the budget
it
to like. It felt like a cheap budget, but a movie that people believed in, and that's why these big actors kind of like supported with their voice.
But it had good production value. Like even though they didn't have a lot of location.
Maybe I did say this earlier. I forget, but the daughter Abby I thought was phenomenal, acting.
Oh yeah,
voice acting.
Oh,
yeah, she did do a great job, and she was quite literally a little girl.
Yeah,
dude, she made me want to jump. Yeah, she made me want to jump into the screen and like save her. Like I'm I need. Where is this human? I need to get there.
So that was the other thing that. One last thought before we wrap up this episode. It never felt like she was in danger. She straight up said, she was like, I don't think there's a weapon. I don't know if he has a weapon. Like, if you're in the car with him, how did you get into the car and not know he doesn't have a weapon? She never like says like, oh, like the children are safe at home or supposedly safe at home. So that's why I never felt like
she's being kidnapped.
You're talking about Emily, not Abby, right?
Yeah.
You're talking
just
Emily,
the whole thing.
Yeah.
I never felt like there was a huge like danger or threat that like, oh, we need to shut down the highways for this, because it didn't seem like that kind of case.
Well, we didn't know. He didn't he couldn't get that information from her.
I mean, she's still being kidnapped and on the highway, right? Like they need to stop traffic.
No, they didn't know if he had a weapon. Well, eventually they find out he has a knife, but Abby probably just saw him take the knife from her, because she probably used the knife on the baby.
Yeah, but that's the thing is she never clarified who had the knife. She just said the knife scared Oliver.
Yeah,
and then like that's the whole thing is like it all leads into the twist of she's the one that did it.
That was just my one other gripe with the story, is that just the danger level never felt there. This didn't seem like the 911 call to like be like, oh, my life is changing now. I don't know. Maybe I'm just being.
Yeah, I think it's still intense, dude. I think it's still intense.
Also,
like,
sorry,
Joe's just trying to shoehorn. Joe was getting beat up this whole podcast, so he's like, I'm just gonna save some towards the end so that they don't have time to rebuttal me.
Okay. last comment. I did watch a trailer for this movie, or I saw it on like when you finish Netflix and they suggest new things. Like this was one that came up, and I don't know if I'm psychotic now and I made this up, but the conversation that Emily has with Joe, the officer, the first time was so different, because in the trailer she was ordering a pizza, and it was like he was saying like, tell me you want pepperoni if he has a gun, and she would be like, yes, I want pepperoni. Do you want an extra say you want an extra large if you know the person? And like I could have
they do that all the time marketing movies.
I know, but I was like, and that's the other thing. I was like, kind of waiting for that moment, and that seems to be more dangerous. But
also, like, when is it appropriate
when your child's like, oh, okay,
yeah. If you're getting kidnapped in a car, why is it appropriate to order a fucking pizza?
Well, in the
Yeah.
commercial, it's not. You don't know that she's in the
I
car.
think
Yeah,
they
yeah,
do
yeah.
that shit, especially. I mean, like, look at Marvel. They fucking twist shit in the trailers all the time to make the narrative seem different than what it's gonna be. I totally believe that. I thought the marketing was actually cool for this. Do you guys follow Jake Gyllenhaal on Instagram?
Mm-mm.
He like posted like a phone number, and like that was it. Like it was a picture of a phone number, and then if you called the phone number, I called it. This is how I found out about this movie, because I called the number, and it was like a 911 call similar to this. I forget what it was, playing on the phone, and I was like, what the fuck is this? It was kind of creepy. And then like that same day or like the next day, they released like the poster and everything for it. So it's super cool ad campaign for it.
That is cool, yeah.
But Double Down, let's get to Double Down. We'll start with James again. James, you doubling down?
100%. Fantastic movie. Like, definitely, again, not for the faint of heart. A lot of adult themes, but Double Down. Like, if you have the wherewithal and like you're okay with a little bit of a darker themed movie, I think this is a fantastic piece of cinema.
Yep, I agree. Joe?
I'm going to
This
double
could go
down.
either
I'm going to
way.
press play. No, I'm pressing play. I do think it's a
Nice.
good movie. I've been in a funk today. I watched the movie today. Maybe I just wasn't in the right mentality headspace.
The right headspace.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
but I did enjoy it, and I think it could have been better. I don't love the single location movie sets, but
Yeah.
you know, COVID times, they probably had to do what they had to do. So appreciate the content.
I'm doubling down.
Nice.
Play again. 3 plays. Haven't had that in a while.
Bing, bing, bing.
Bing, bing, bing.
Doo-doo-doo.
3
Bing, bang,
plays.
bong.
Watch this movie. Great acting. Good story. It's a quick watch. Yeah, it was an enjoyable film. So with that, James is up with the socials. James, you want to hit it up? Go for it.
Thank you all for watching this episode of Flicks Fellas. We really appreciate it. If you like this content and you want to see more of it, please click the like button and then the subscribe button down below. We upload Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays with all different types of content. We want to see your content, not your content. You see our content. We want to see your comments.
James wants to subscribe
to
to your
see
only
your
content.
Please comment down below. Let us know what you thought about this movie. It's very popular right now. And what movies you want us to see in the future. We do like to take fan recommendations if we can. So please let us know what you want us to watch. Follow us on Instagram at Flicks_Fellows. We're very active on that account. And we do respond, and we comment on other posts as well. So feel free to give us a follow there.
I don't care who you are. If you are one of our friends, one of our family, a total stranger who found this show, thank you. Any interaction with our social media or our channel is greatly appreciated. Whether you rate us 5 stars on
Joe's
Apple.
dying to interact with someone. No one interacts with him on his
thank
regular
you.
socials. So
Yeah. Joey is awesome on the Instagram. Joey's
Yeah.
usually on
Our
the Instagram. I
Instagram's
get on the
been
Instagram
going
sometimes.
well. Okay, people have been
Yeah,
interacting
it
there
has.
more often, so I've been liking that.
Mhm.
But 5 stars on Apple. You don't give us 1 star if you want. Who cares? Just give us a review so we get some reviews up
Yeah.
there. Cause some controversy. We'll fight back. There's no such thing as bad press, right?
Agreed.
right.
Yeah. Let us know what you think. Review us on Apple Podcasts, and thank you again for watching or listening.
Bye.
Ciao, ciao.
Bye bye.